Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. It's a very chilly episode today, hence the two coats, but it is brought to you by our friends at Now TV. You can get your Sky Sports mobile month pass for just £5.99 by clicking the link in the description below. And you should as well, because the big match on Sunday that we're covering, Hamill.
Huge. Join us for Armchair Fans on Sunday live at 4 p.m. for Manchester City versus Arsenal. Pretty seminal game for their season, obviously losing out to Newcastle in the game week just gone. And that month pass also gets you access to the likes of Liverpool versus West Ham Monday night football. And our first question involves these top sides, doesn't it, Joseph?
It does. It was sent in by Julio19. If you want to get your question answered next week, put it in the comments below or send it to us on Twitter. And Julio says, what has been the main thing that has set Liverpool apart from Man City so far this season, Dukes?
In short, not a lot really. I think they're very evenly matched. Obviously, Man City, have had a bit of a winter of discontent really. They've lost 4 games since the start of December, which isn't great by any means, but they've been flying in the cups. Before Tuesday's game against Newcastle, they hadn't conceded in 350 minutes. So this is not a team in crisis. And I'd argue that in all those losses, they came up against almost sort of extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
They played a Chelsea side, I think it was on the 9th of December, who were banging form at the time, lost to a very good side that day, simply outplayed.
Unlucky as well. They were unlucky. They could have won that game.
Crystal Palace, I think Palace scored with 3 of their 4 shots on target. Andros Townsend scored a 35-yard banger. You can't legislate for that. Similarly against Leicester, I think it was 2 counter-attack goals, including a Ricardo Pereira, really nice finish. The only one that was really disappointing, and I think City fans would agree with me on this, was their game against Newcastle. I thought they were flat throughout, they were sloppy, not clearing their lines effectively for the first, and then Fernandinho lunging in when he didn't need to. All he needed was a call from one of his teammates saying, hoof it clear. But instead he turns into Longstaff and they concede a penalty. Ended up being a really disappointing night. I'd also argue that City have also lost some key personnel at times this year. They've obviously played long parts of the season without De Bruyne. Aguero's missed some games. David Silva, Fernandinho, I think he missed 2 out of their 3 losses prior to their game against Newcastle, I should add. Mendy's obviously missed large parts of this year. They haven't turned into a bad team overnight, and they're certainly not in crisis. As opposed to Liverpool, I think their failure to pick up 3 points against Leicester last night was a massive, massive moment. I think that was really, really disappointing. They sort of played like their pitch. It was slow, it was lethargic. They couldn't get their passing going. Robertson with a rare error, giving away that free kick, which then Maguire scored from. Some will argue that he should have already been sent off.
What a header back in from Chilwell. Saw you tweeting about that. Got you excited.
And Van Dijk rarely almost sleeping a little bit at the back post, running out, just jogging out, losing his man, Harry Maguire. That's a rare Van Dijk mistake.
But Liverpool just keep on going really. Their home form has been imperious. I mean, prior to their first 9 home games of the season, they conceded 2 goals. They've obviously conceded in their last 3 now, and 3 against Palace and 1 against Leicester, which isn't so good. But they've just been great against teams that are outside of the top 6 as well. I think last night was the first time that they had failed to beat a team outside of the top 6. So they've just been banging away the small teams.
And Leicester have been good against teams in the top 6.
Definitely. They're very compact, difficult to break down. And Maguire put in a cracking performance. Evans was great at the back as well. But yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a lot between the sides, and the statistics sort of point to that as well, really.
No, you're right. And if I was Pep Guardiola, I'd be pretty annoyed that I was chasing down Liverpool at this point in the season. My team are averaging more shots than Liverpool per game. They're conceding fewer shots than Liverpool per game. They're averaging much more possession. I think it's 63 to 57. And also scoring a salivating 2.6 goals per 90. I think Liverpool still scoring 2.3 as well. I mean, given the form of that forward triumvirate, not surprising, Mohamed Salah has contributed to 24 goals so far this season, which is actually 1 more than Firmino and Mane put together. And expected points actually has them as a good enough side, a good enough unit at this point to be top of the league by a point. So maybe Liverpool are getting the rub of the green on the defensive end a little bit. Alisson obviously plays a huge part in that. We saw at Roma last season saving 80% of the shots that you face inside the box. When you've got a goalkeeper who's a brilliant shot stopper and a fantastic distributor as well. I think his XG build-up's actually pretty impressive for a goalkeeper. Then these sort of numbers, tend to go your way. But my only hang-up with Manchester City is, and why I think Liverpool will possibly win the league. And I wouldn't begrudge him that, by the way. A lot of people in the office don't want Liverpool to win the league.
Win the world.
I don't mind it whatsoever, given the positive brand of football they've been playing this season. Is Manchester City's over-reliance on Fernandinho. And they tried to recruit for the long term in the summer, didn't they? You're going to touch upon that in a minute. Jorginho and Fred didn't really succeed in that regard. Now looking at expensive options like Ndombele, like Ruben Neves from Wolves. But he has been, barring that game against Newcastle where he gave away a penalty, absolutely exceptional this season, and they just have not looked like the same side without him. So he's just not giving up on either end. He's profiling like a fullback at the minute. So attacking wise, his deep progressions, the 4th best in the league, which is pretty crazy when you look at the players around him, Dele Alli and N'Golo Kante, given that they're much more advanced, and defensively making around 5 tackles and interceptions when you actually adjust it for possession. They just can't live without him. In this Manchester City side, John Stones, Aymeric Laporte would not be able to step out, make those brave passes, spring those plays without him shielding them in midfield. And I fear that if anything happens to him, they should be wrapping him in cotton wool. When he should sleep in a cryogenic chamber, because if anything happened to him, I feel like it would be campaign over in terms of competing for the league, despite De Bruyne returning, despite Pep always being brilliant at finding different ways to operate and sort of plug holes. But the quest goes on, Joe, to look for a Fernandinho replacement.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that the one thing separating the two clubs right now is summer recruitment and actually luck as well. I will mention luck because it's 2 goalkeeping errors so far this season that are separating the two teams.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And both of them have gone in the favour of Liverpool. One from Speroni, a howler, and one from Jordan Pickford, which was arguably even worse to win that Merseyside derby. So 2 goalkeeping errors, but a summer of recruitment has, in my opinion, so far hindered Manchester City's progression. You look back at all the great Premier League sides of years gone by that have retained the trophy, every single one of them has improved their squad tenfold.
What about Mahrez, though? Big money signing?
Mahrez, yeah, very good signing, but not in an area that they desperately needed improvement, or at least cover. Like you've already mentioned, Fernandinho, they had to get cover in. Pep Guardiola was desperate to sign a central midfielder this summer. He was all over Jorginho. That was nearly a done deal before Maurizio Sarri joined Chelsea.
Although I think they might have dodged a bullet there, because defensively I don't think he'd be able to do what Fernandinho is doing.
Totally agree with
Potentially not. And I also think he wanted Fred, didn't he? And that didn't quite work out. Maybe that's for the best. But nevertheless, clearly wanted a central midfielder, didn't get him. I also think they probably should have gone in slightly more heavily for a fullback than they did in the summer. Benjamin Mendy missed 45 games last season. He's already missed 28 games this season. Perennial injuries now. It's becoming an epidemic with Benjamin Mendy. He's sort of turning into Man City's version of Gareth Bale. Incredible talent, but just can't string a run of games together. And if a player picks up a serious ACL injury and you are concerned about his fitness going forward, why not go into the market and sign a young defender? Clearly they don't trust Danilo with the responsibility of playing as a left wing back or a left back. I don't back Zinchenko to be there long term as their left wing back option. And Fabian Delph, as good as he was last season, there are upgrades to be had in the market. Right back as well, Kyle Walker last year, we were talking about him being the best right back in world football. I don't think you can say that. I don't even think you'll get close to saying that this season. He's had some harrowing games, Kyle Walker, already this season. So I think the fullback areas have been a little bit concerning. But overall, it's really luck for me. It's the 2 goalkeeping errors. And over the course of the season, it's going to be whoever wins it is whoever keeps their key players fit. Is it going to be Van Dijk that picks up an injury, or Salah, or is it going to be Fernandinho?
But Liverpool,
because either one.
Going back to recruitment, and we're talking fine margins here, they've still got much more to come from Naby Keita. I was watching the game in the pub last night. Liverpool fans not overly enamoured with him, let's say. I think he's was shouted at the screen on more than one occasion, despite the fact he should have won a penalty in that game. And I'm sure at some point he will pick up form. He's just feeling his way into that side. But Fabinho, I've noticed, even when he came on against Leicester, actually contributed very positively. He's starting to become the player that we maybe thought he would, and he's actually profiling very similarly to Fernandinho. So Pep might be a little bit annoyed that he's probably someone they could have done with at the moment. But it's fine margins all over the Premier League, really, isn't it? Because Tottenham are kind of Tottenham and Chelsea are doing their best to surrender third position, and we've got to touch upon Chelsea losing to Bournemouth last night, because that was absolutely harrowing. That cost Antonio Conte his job in that fixture, didn't it, last season when he lost 3-0.
Yeah.
Maurizio Sarri going one better, losing 4-0 now, and some very choice words were said about Higuain, weren't there?
Yeah, well, I think he came out in the written press anyway. I've seen a few quotes saying that he's worryingly out of shape, Higuain, which is concerning. And he obviously started the season at Milan in pretty decent shape. It seemed like that was the noise coming out of Milan anyway. But I also looked at some of Higuain's shot maps today at Milan. So far this season, before he joined Chelsea, absolutely harrowing.
Really?
All outside the box.
Yeah. Really?
Barely a shot
He was
inside
their top
the
goal
box.
scorer when he left, wasn't he, with 6 goals?
He was, but not flying. Let's put it that way,
No.
not flying. Comes into a side that is all over the place, quite frankly. You mentioned Tottenham Hotspur, they're struggling a little bit. Let's not forget that Tottenham, I believe, they're only 2 points behind City.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tight.
Maybe kind of forgetting about their consistency, because in the way they've sort of had to drag themselves through games in the absence of their star players. So
And it's
we're
been
losing 1-0 to Watford last night, weren't they?
Yeah, and it's been a lot of
Thursday,
there's been a lot of errors in the cup, so you don't see that in the Premier League quite as much. But having said that, Chelsea, like I said, all over the place, absolutely all over the place defensively. Sarri's got no coherence in the midfield. Kovacic looks an absolute mess at the moment.
David Brooks doing absolute bits against him.
Jorginho's fallen off a cliff recently.
Yeah.
Even with deep progression numbers, all that kind of stuff is literally just.
Yeah, I do think this talk of Sarri his job being under threat is frankly ridiculous, though.
But when he's coming out in the press and he said, "I cannot motivate these players," what do you expect?
That's a message to the board, and he's not the first one that said that. They need to back him in the transfer window. Remember, he only came in, I think, 3 or 4 weeks before the window closed. He only really signed Jorginho as major signings, and he needs to be backed more in the window. He hasn't had the players that he wanted, necessarily. And, Higuain was his signing, so a lot of pressure on Higuain now. But I think this talk of, you don't sack Sarri after 9 months. It's a bit like when Guardiola first went to City, not saying that they'll do what City did next year, but they finished 3rd, and they were actually quite disappointing. I looked it up earlier today, and they didn't go above 3rd from the end of January in his first year in charge. And everyone was like, oh, Guardiola's struggling to adapt to the English game. No, he went out and signed 4 fullbacks and a keeper, and suddenly they were much better. And then went on that ridiculous run last year.
Yeah, certain parallels between, I guess, that loss to Bournemouth and maybe Guardiola's loss to Leicester in that season when they finished there. I think they lost 4-1 to Leicester.
I think they also lost 4-0 to Everton as well. So it does take a bedding-in period to get these managers that have such an interesting
I think there's
the
clear difference between the two is that even in that season, I remember thinking the players are buying into Guardiola's methods. It's taking a period of adaptation, and then you can see that adaptation, maybe they're not used to it, but they're buying into it. I was watching the Chelsea bits of the Chelsea game last night, and they were not buying into Sarri's football at any stage.
I don't know about that, because I mean Rudiger and David Luiz have tried their best to sort of emulate, passing it out from the back, working it down that left-hand channel. Obviously, Eden Hazard has publicly said that he hates playing as a false number 9. That's been the most public sort of dispute, hasn't it, between him and a player. I feel like everyone else, and he's rotated pretty judiciously, hasn't he, with the likes of Willian, Pedro, is sort of happy to have him there, I guess. Where did Chelsea go if Sarri can't make it work at the club as well?
I feel like
he can't sack him.
He might be becoming a sort of victim of his own success at the start of the season. So
I think he's shooting himself in the foot.
You've got to give him
at the start of the season.
You've got to give him at least a whole transfer window.
What do you say success looks like for Chelsea at the start of the season?
Yeah, top 4.
Yeah,
but I think he's shooting himself in the foot.
And let's not forget that for the first 12 games, similar to when Guardiola first came in, they won the first 12 games.
Yeah.
He was the new messiah. So everyone's just being a bit rash. The amount of games that they played recently, yes, that result to Bournemouth is pretty inexcusable, and they played appallingly. But there was, some great finishes from Bournemouth. Let's, not take any credit away from them as well. Brooks and in particular King were exceptional on the night. I think it's too early to rule out Sarri as a flop. And Jorginho, what I would do right now is he's in the firing line, still a good player. Take him out of the firing line for a few games. Play Kante there.
I think as soon as Sarri drops Jorginho, he is completely admitting defeat to his own system. As soon as he goes, I'm not playing Jorginho in that role. I'm adapting my role.
Do you not think it'd be better for the player and the team? Jorginho is so. He's a great player, but he is so slow.
I do agree.
I've never seen anyone slower on a
I
field.
agree, but then if you're Jorginho, and if you're Sarri, I think you are admitting defeat, and you're admitting to your players that this system doesn't work.
Do you know what I feel like? Jorginho, I feel he would have been one of the world's best midfielders 10, 15 years ago when possession really was king, and these sort of players who played, who started intricate passing moves like Xabi Alonso, maybe Paul Scholes at the end of his career as well. And other players of that ilk were really heralded as Pirlo as well, as the fulcrum of a side. And now it's like, okay, midfielders like Dele Alli, for example, and N'Golo Kante can do everything. Being press resistant because all the top managers play pressing football is now, and I know this is cyclical, is now like the number one quality. And Jorginho has found himself playing in a league where he's under the cosh constantly, and he's not able to dictate tempo, and he has that skill set, and he's still executing certain parts of it to great effect, like you said, with the deep progressions. Like, he's still starting all Chelsea's positive attacking moves. He's just easier to nullify than other more dynamic midfielders because they are fitter, stronger, and like Aaron Ramsey did in that Arsenal game. And I just the alarming thing is how easy it is to manage him out of a game at current.
Yeah. But even last night, it didn't take a top level player to do it. It took David Brooks in his first Premier League season.
I'll not have a bad word said about David Brooks.
I like David Brooks a lot, but he completely man-marked Jorginho out of the game.
I agree, but what you would I completely agree. We can level criticism at Jorginho all we want. The whole midfield's dysfunctional. Yeah. Sarri's not getting the best out of Kovacic. He's not getting the best out of
Chelsea
Jorginho.
Fans want Kovacic
He's not getting the best out of Kante. He's not getting the best out of Ross Barkley when he comes in. He's arguably not got the best out of Hazard so far this season. So at what stage do we start saying, hang on, he's not getting the best out of 6 players?
I don't know.
Maybe the system's wrong.
I think if you're on the Chelsea board, you just see that maybe the inconsistency as not necessarily a bad thing, as there's more to come. So that second half performance against Manchester City, that 90 minutes where Eden Hazard's back on the left wing against Tottenham in the Carabao Cup. That is the sort of football that you want to see Chelsea play, and the sort of the football that's going to lead them back to domestic glory of some sort, whether that be in the cup or the league. So there have been kind of like flashes in the pan, haven't they? But it's how do you sustain it? He's got to add to his repertoire, definitely.
You'd expect him this summer, because even Guardiola had to go. He's spent big on every single window to fit his style of play. And I know players, I get your point, in his first year did seem to be playing a lot better. But some players just weren't suited to his system. Sanya, Clichy, they were all moved on that summer. And I'd expect this summer at Chelsea there'd be quite a lot of moving to get in the players that you need. Because you can't just buy one central midfielder and expect it all to be fixed. With 2 pretty immobile forwards to begin the season with Giroud and Morata, that hasn't really been solved by Higuain. Don't really look like it's not going to be free-flowing Chelsea this year. But I suggest giving him time. And it's similar to Pochettino as well. He this week was like, I call for top-level players and I get, I need a washing machine and I get a dryer, is what he said. And I have to convert the dryer into a washing machine. So
that is a harrowing quote.
At the same time, when Kudu moves on to Monaco, maybe you meant players of that ilk, the 15-20 million pound
you have to buy
player.
Moussa Sissoko, who'd been playing on the right wing, and try and convert him into a central midfielder, because you're not getting back.
I agree, but Sarri did buy 2 of his starting midfield free in the summer. He bought Kovacic in, clearly his decision. But that must have been his decision that he wanted that ilk player, not got the best out of him. And then Jorginho was as well. So I do agree, but I do think Sarri is escaping a little bit of criticism because of his the football that was being displayed.
Yeah, because people want to see his style of football work.
Yeah.
And I do agree in a sense that with Dougie, in a sense that he's come into a squad that has needed major surgery. His average age is probably creeping, up and up. We've got Willy and Pedro, both of 30, that he wants to replace on that right-hand side. But then that's kind of offset by the youth he has at his disposal and chooses not to use at the same time.
Does he want Willy and Pedro? He's got Hudson-Odoi out there.
Yeah, who was absolutely lethal. He's got 5 goal contributions in 5 starts in cup games. He appears ready for first team football. When I've watched him, he's looked pretty complete.
Yeah, he looked great against
So there is kind of you want it to work for Sarri, but there's areas where you can be critical. But and now he's kind of stuck his colours to the Higuain-shaped mast. It's like
pretty big mast as well.
Yeah,
and it's
well,
also,
in his own words.
Like they're creeping down the table. 2 points off 6 now. And I'll be honest, if you're Maurizio Sarri and you don't get 4th and you don't get Champions League,
Trouble.
not easy to attract players to the bridge at all, because there's a big rebuild. We're talking David Luiz replacement, probably talking fullback replacements.
Hazard's contract extension not
We're
sorted.
talking a Kovacic replacement. We're talking probably a new striker if they choose not to
it's the
extend
same old
Higuain's
problems,
deal.
isn't
Another
it?
wing,
But
like without Champions League football, you're bringing in 6 players. That is hard for me, because Arsenal, you look at Arsenal this season, have struggled to do it. They've not been able to tempt anyone. They've got no budget.
Doing loan signings.
They're doing loan signings, and we talk about it being tight for the title race. The top 4 now, 2 points separate 3 teams, and that is as tight as it gets.
Yeah, no one's taking the initiative.
terms of the
3,
top
4,
four.
5, and 6. Like if Man United had beat Burnley and continued to build momentum, like it's going to be interesting to see how Manchester United now deal with a little bit of negativity. Yeah. I guess playing against teams that are going to deploy that deep block now because they know they're kind of back in their attacking pomp, let's say. But yeah, 3rd, 4th, 5th,
Especially
and 6th, like it's getting increasingly harder to call, and all our assumptions at the start of the season are starting to be blown out the window.
Yeah. Man United's game against Leicester this weekend is going to be fascinating. Leicester have done really well against the bigger sides this year. Not least in that Liverpool game, not least in that City game. Let's see what they're up to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But what do you guys think? What is separating the top 2 in the title race and the top 4 as well? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Moving on now to quick fire questions. The first one was sent in by Niall. He says, which signing has been the biggest disappointment ever? One from your club and one from another club.
You're looking at me? Am I going first?
Yeah, go on, you go first.
Oh, well, I mean, I always temper my expectations when it comes to Celtic, so I've never been devastated that transfer hasn't worked out. And I've spoke about Thomas Gravesen before on this show when we signed him, I think on a 2 or 3 year deal for 40 grand a week, had to get our majority shareholder to pay his wages, as we did with Roy Keane, and neither of them really contributing in any meaningful way. However, I will say, Charlie Musonda was a hard one to take, just because I put my neck on the line in terms of how I thought he could contribute, how he profiled well, fit in well to a Brendan Rodgers system, this quick and fast being the same thing, attacking sort of dynamic winger, could come on the inside. I thought he'd contribute positively, but no, James Forrest kind of
Usurped him.
Yeah, well, not usurped him, just he never got a sniff. So probably Charlie Musonda in recent memory.
What about from another club then?
From another club? Come back to me for another club. Not really had a thought.
I'll start with Sunderland.
Myriad at Sunderland. List off 120 names quickly.
Well, with signings, I'm actually pretty delighted whenever we get anyone through the door. So I don't really have a disappointing signing, but I've got quite a few disappointing sales. I thought when we let Patrick van Arnholt go to Crystal Palace, although it was fair enough for him and a good move it's turned out for him, that was really disappointing in January. And we didn't sign a replacement. We also left Darren Bent left in January, Lewis Grabban. We routinely let our best players go. We've seen that again this month with Josh Maja, and we were rumoured to be taking Ched Evans as his replacement. And the less said about that deal, the better, really. In terms of disappointment of all time, I was really excited at Shevchenko coming to Chelsea way back in the day. Didn't know enough about football then, or didn't have a proper appreciation to realise that he was probably over the hill at that stage, and he played like it, and I was just absolutely gutted because I'd always liked watching him as a player. And then this season, I think Thomas Lemar's been really disappointing at Atleti. I tweeted out the other day, he's got something like 2 goals and 2 assists in 24 league games, and for a 24 league and Champions League games. And for a £63 million signing as the next big thing potentially in Europe, we're talking about him in that title-winning Monaco season. I've been really disappointed with him.
Not a lot of their new signings have fared very well, have they? Gelson Martins, Diego Costa, looks like his body's about to give up.
Yeah. I think Simeone, someone made a very good point in reply to that tweet, saying that Simeone has quite a difficulty with wide players, and you can see it actually. Gaitan didn't really work out there, Carrasco as well. So maybe that's something for Simeone to look at in his system, whether he gets the amount out of these exceptionally talented wingers. But yeah, I'd say Thomas Lemar.
Yeah, I'll go for Fernando Torres, I think, at Chelsea. £50 million. I was so excited to see how he did there, and it just never worked out, did it? It just didn't happen for him. That was kind of the end of a faltering career for Fernando Torres that just petered out. At Man United, I'll go Angel Di Maria, I think.
Fair enough.
Di Maria, I was so excited, and like he actually didn't start that badly. 6 months, he was flying, and then his house got robbed, and it all went downhill. Somebody burgled his house, and it all fell apart for him. Do you remember the goal against Leicester?
Yeah, the little
dink.
chip.
Oh, so good, and he was
That was the opening day of the season, wasn't it? Didn't you win 4-3?
I don't think it was the opening day. I think it was a few weeks
definitely
in,
early on.
but it was early on.
Because it was bright sunshine, I think.
And
life was good.
he was
LVG
arguably one of the
bathing.
world's best players when he first joined. Do you remember, like the season before, he'd been
Man
the
of the match,
man of the match in the Champions League final. He'd been unbelievable playing in the midfield three for Real Madrid, and just at Man United in the back half of the season. And then he's done alright at PSG, but never hit the heights he did at Madrid.
Some other teams then, okay, I've had a little time to think. So Aquilani coming into Liverpool and thinking, I really hope this guy is an able deputy, an able replacement for Xabi Alonso, because I want Liverpool to challenge for the league in the same, bit of a soft spot for Liverpool, in the same way that they had done the year prior, maybe. Yeah, so Aquilani, they brought in some other players, didn't they, that have kind of found their feet now. Iago Aspas. Is it Suso as well?
Ryan Babels back in the front.
Celta Vigo and West Suso, AC Milan respectively. Ian Robin, I remember when he went to not Bayern Munich, so Real Madrid, I thought he was just going to be Ballon d'Or when I thought he was going to tear it up. Like, loved him at Chelsea. He was lethal on Football Manager as well, so just 20s all over the shop. But
still had a great career.
He didn't actually I don't think he was that keen to move to Bayern.
Oh, really?
Well, it's like admitting defeat at the best club in the world, isn't it, when you're at Real Madrid? But yeah, I think he says it's
pretty happy since.
Now looks back on it as the best decision he ever made, yeah.
The next one came from Riley Pazion. He says, kind of a cheap one here, but personal favourite transfer for the January window.
This January?
Not the most effective or cost efficient. For this January, yeah. I'll kick us off.
God,
I think
we're going to have the same one, aren't we?
I think Yuri Tielemans.
Yeah.
Yuri Tielemans to Leicester.
Has that been confirmed?
In a loan swap. He did his medical yesterday, so I think it might be announced today. This is Thursday. It's a loan swap with Adrian Silva with an option to buy, which is just unbelievable business, given that he was one of the best youngsters in the world at Anderlecht.
It really worries me that Jardim does not rate him. As someone who is so good at bringing on young talent, he's gone for a man in Adrian Silva who's played about 3.5 minutes at Leicester in the last 8 months.
But do you think that he doesn't rate him, or do you think that he's come in, he's seen him second bottom, scrambling, he's thought, you know what, I'd rather play Fabregas in there for the next 6 months?
Maybe.
And I just think he does. There's not the time to develop youngsters. This is not the time to develop a youngster. This is the time to get immediate results. So maybe he's just thought, look, Adrian Silva, he might bring some more immediacy to this club.
Some more experience, some more nous. But even then, I'd just say, like,
same
ability-wise,
Naldo and players.
It's odd. It's odd.
Yeah, it is odd. Dukes, got any for this window?
It's been a really disappointing window, and obviously this goes out on a Sunday, so we're praying for some transfers before the deadline day live stream tonight with Joe Cole. Hopefully some big ones will go through. I've heard a lot of good things. I have never seen him play. I've got to caveat that about Chris Mepham, who's just gone to Bournemouth, the centre-back from Brentford. He was wanted by Southampton as well. I think they chased after him for a couple of windows. Apparently he was a really, really good defender at Brentford, so I'm excited to see how he adapts to the Premier League, because they kind of need a long-term replacement for, Steve Cook, Simon Francis, and Charlie Daniels. I know he's on the left, but, all the wrong side of 30. So yeah, it'll be intriguing to see how he gets on.
And then, before we move on to personal questions, the final quick-fire question of the day does N'Golo Kante need to leave Chelsea to get back to his best?
What are you thinking?
The bed. I actually think, if you're looking for a Fernandinho replacement, he's not bad, is he? As someone that can contribute on both ends. New $300,000 a week contract. It's not like he's been forced out of the side. He's been forced into a different role, and people I think are pissed off to a disproportionate degree about how N'Golo Kante is being used now. Yes, we all loved him, seeing him absolutely mop up in defensive midfield.
Terror
but when you've got 63% possession, you don't necessarily need that, do you? So I am pretty calm about Sarri deploying him in a different role. He's 2 goals, 2 assists so far this season. It's been his. I think that was his combined total from the previous 4. So it is improving gradually. Will he have to move on? World Cup winner, Premier League winner. What to move on to what? Because I don't think a Premier League team is going to win back-to-back Premier Leagues again for a little while to come, such is the competition.
Yeah. I don't think he should move on, but if I was PSG, I'd go all in for him, big time. Verratti, fitness issues, not old by any stretch, but a lot of fitness issues. Didn't get Frankie de Jong. Rabiot possibly leaving, although that's still not any the clearer. Hopefully we'll know by tonight's deadline what's really going on there. So yeah, he makes such a difference in that midfield. I mean, they play Marquinhos quite often in midfield, who's done well, but Kante's just a step above. I'd go for Kante definitely.
Yeah, I think if you're Chelsea, don't sell him. But if I'm Kante, I'm leaving. If I'm Kante, I'm pushing for a summer move. Yeah, I just am. I don't know.
Even with that cush new contract.
Even with the cush new contract, yeah. I think there are other options out in the market that maybe would be interested and just tickle his fancy.
What other clubs are paying him 300 grand a week?
Real Madrid.
Yeah, maybe.
I think
over Casemiro, then.
Maybe over Casemiro, or maybe in a midfield too with Casemiro. The Modric and Kroos aging out. I don't know. I think he's potential could be moving on. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Don't see him staying there. Let's move on to personal questions then. First one: what's your favourite car you've owned, and what is your dream car to buy? Never owned one, never passed my driving test. So you two have to take that.
We had. Why did you fail your driving test out of curiosity? As a man who's also failed 3 driving tests.
Yeah, 3 driving tests failed. No, 2 driving tests failed. 4 or 5 majors. I think I've had. Not great, and a dangerous. The main one was the dangerous. Yeah.
That's a big one to get.
Coming to a standstill on a slip road, and the bloke asked me to get out of the car.
Yeah.
So
you got out of the car on a slip road.
No.
So a dual carriageway.
I got came off a 60 mile an hour slip road coming onto the dual carriageway, and I just parked up in the middle of it.
Because did you see the lines? I think you had to give way or something.
There's a lorry broken down on the hard shoulder. And I just thought, he's stopped there.
Panic,
so I just pulled up behind him.
Oh, no.
The car's going, fucking hell, around the corner. And he's going, drive!
Have you now lost your confidence, or do you think you'll ever get it?
I just can't be arsed with it now. It's just too much effort. Living in
London.
London.
It's something you need to power through, because picking it back up is so difficult.
But living in London, I just don't really need it.
So I failed one test for going too quickly outside of a school, weirdly enough,
boy racer.
But you have to lower your speed by 10 miles an hour if the lights are flashing on a Pelican crossing, because it means it's you have to lower your speed during school hours.
Okay.
So a proper obscure reason to fail. I was like, what the?
I never heard that either.
And then I failed. Had that in mind for my next test. Failed for going too quickly down a dual carriageway. So I just couldn't find the balance. A girl at my school, Chelsea Hog, shout out if you're watching Chelsea Hog, massive fan of Sunday Vibes. I think she passed her driving test despite going up a curb.
Wow.
So
fully onto it.
Maybe that's just a minor.
I obviously wasn't,
Mate, they're definitely told they have to fail a certain amount of people per month. I don't care what anyone says. The DVLA, whoever does them, you're frauds.
They've got to hit their stats.
Absolute frauds.
Yeah.
Expected
Worse
fails.
than FIFA, mate, dude.
What about you,
Definitely.
mate? What's your dream car? We've actually had this in the podcast, haven't we?
Yeah, not a Maserati for me. You can listen to that in the podcast about why not. I've only had the one car, and it's a Renault Clio Dynamique. It's pretty speedy when it wants to.
Dynamique, is it just dynamic?
No, it's French.
Oh, right, okay.
Dynamique. And no, it's a pretty nice car. Turquoise, get up to about 55 on a good day with the wind behind it. I'm enjoying driving that. And then, I was awful at driving as well, to be fair. When I was learning, I failed too. I found it actually frustrating. It's the only time I've cried in the last 10 years for something ridiculous was when I failed my driving test.
Yeah, I cried both times.
I find it so annoying.
It's such a weird type of pressure though, isn't it? When you're just someone is looking at you so intensely from 7 inches away. Yeah. And when I passed my test, I just inherited my mum's car, and it was an absolute soccer mum wagon. It was a Ford, got Finesse.
Oh.
It was and it just had a huge boot, which is always good.
Yeah.
Transporting the footballs down 5-a-side, but no, not very glamorous. Can't really be asked to think of a dream car, to be honest.
All right.
Aston Martin.
Oh. Most absurd thing you've ever bet on is our final question from Meath Panda.
Accidentally bet on Lithuanian basketball once.
Okay.
Accidentally, wow.
Yeah, because it was just on the old Sky Bet homepage. So, but accidentally put that in an accumulator.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so not specifically that.
I see.
Dukes?
I'm not really a betting man, actually. I bet on the Grand National every year, but I don't have any accounts. Try and stay clear of that, really.
When the fun stops, stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Me and my friends used to bet on virtual football.
Football Manager?
No.
I've got a good one.
No, there's a section within certain betting companies where there's football, hockey, ice hockey, horses, and then there's virtual football and virtual horses, where if you don't want to have to wait for the games to kick off, there's like a constant league going on, and you can like look at some of the stats and stuff, but you're just purely betting based on like.
And is it like Football Manager little blobs going around the screen?
No, it's not.
It's just
that.
the scores.
It's just the scores.
Right.
So it's just like a pure lottery.
the blobs are
It's
brilliant.
pure lottery. But you can put accumulators on and stuff like that. Virtual horses are absolute death wish for a better.
Or just or the little horse things in the what they're called, the arcade. But my mate Alex, who we call Treebeard because he was like 6'9", he went for a bit of a desperate period after university betting, and actually told us one day that he bet on hamster racing.
That's
a thing. That's a thing.
Where do they meet to do that?
I'm not sure.
I
didn't really want to find out more.
Bring your hamster.
We had an intervention, and I'm happy to say he's okay now.
Yeah.
Wow, that is pretty
he's
harrowing.
seen
Kicked his habit.
That is pretty harrowing. Anyway, that is the end of this episode of Sunday Vibes. As we said at the start, don't forget to download your Sky Sports mobile month pass for just $5.99 by clicking the link in the description below. And the stream's today, is it? 4 o'clock today?
It is 4 o'clock today, of course, being 3 days in the future.
Yes,
Yeah.
Manchester City versus Arsenal. Hamill, who are you on screen with?
I'm on screen with this man to my left. I think Zach Gelab is joining us, and other people from the Football Daily family.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice
definitely.
little surprise there.
Also, don't forget to download all the podcasts. I know we didn't do one this week. We had a busy time with the 2 streams. But, if you want to hear more about our silly signings, go and download the last podcast and all the other ones.
Yes, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.